Hello everyone, Stacy here, and what better time for me to offer you my very first online video, knowing the first one I ever wanted to make was about stress response, and everyone is pretty fucking stressed right now considering the trippy ass shit happening in the world. Cool. So, before I get into how to shift out of stress response, I want to take a moment to express the importance of stress response. I really validate stress response. I never want, with any physical or emotional response, to label anything as bad or wrong. I think it's pretty cool that our bodies have a system to keep us alert of whether or not there is a threat, but what's also really cool is that we do have the capacity to shift out of that. So first, thank you so much, body, for alerting me to this threat or challenge, and knowing that it's super unhealthy for me to stay in stress response. All of our stress hormones are super acidic. Hanging out in that place wreaks havoc on our digestion, our sleep, our relationships, and at some point we need to choose to consciously shift into the opposite of stress response, which is rest response. Many of us don't realize that when we do sit down with the intention of resting, that we're actually still hanging out in stress response. And how I might know that that's happening is if my mind is still on edge, or if I look within to pay attention to the physical responses I'm experiencing. The very first physical response in the world of stress is breath. So my breathing becomes short and shallow. So if you are sitting with the intention to rest, just take a minute and notice what's happening with your breath. Is your breathing long and easy? Is it initiated by your diaphragm? Or is it short and shallow and initiated by the chest and neck? And another way how we know we're still habitually hanging out in stress response is if I'm physically feeling a lot of tension in the neck and shoulders, knowing that the secondary breathing muscles, which are all of the ones up in this space that have the intention of helping us take in more oxygen when we are in stress response, they become what is now our primary breathing muscles. So breath is constantly being initiated by this space instead of what is intended to be the primary breathing muscles, the diaphragm. So if I have the capacity for long, easy breaths initiated by the diaphragm, then I know that I am consciously shifting into rest response. Now, an easy way to notice if you are breathing from here or from here is just by placing a hand on each space. And the second thing I really love to practice in order to shift into rest response is restorative yoga. So restorative yoga is using all the props on planet Earth to bring the ground up to meet the body in whatever posture is the opposite of what you have been spending the most time in your stress response. So knowing that the most common posture for stress response is a forward posturing, is the importance to practice the opposite posture. And with that, I will show you a restorative back bend. Now, I'm going to keep it really simple with minimal props. Not everyone has all the props to use at home. A restorative back bend is, just for posturing. Everything is called in flexion, so flexing forward. A back bend, I'm extending. So I'm giving the space for my spine to move from this habitual flexing forward or collapsing forward into a nice flexing backward. So I have with me a blanket. I'm a really big fan of the Half Moon blankets. Halfmoon.ca has wonderful props. I like these blankets because they're easy to fold up into different sizes for different prop usage. At home you can use a towel. So rolling your towel up or blanket up. And I'm gonna place this so that it's gonna fall right under my shoulder blades, or where your bra strap would be. Right under my shoulder blades. Lay that down. And it's also nice to have something under your knees. Most people often have a yoga mat at home. We'll use one of those. Yoga mat under my knees. And before I rest down, I'm going to make sure that I'm in the right positioning. So, yeah, that looks about right. Oh, this already feels really good. I'll kick my yoga mat under my knees. Oh, yeah. And rest down. So I'm going to look and see if I can see my head here. Yes, I can. Perfect. Something that often happens is for people's head to do this, and there isn't always the capacity to find length at the back of the neck in this posture. And if that's the case, I encourage you to use a prop under the head to help build that up and find the length at the back of the neck. From here, I'm just gonna kind of feel into what's happening in the rest of the body. I have a little bit of a chronic bend between my sacrum and my low back, so I'm just gonna find some space by reaching my tailbone towards the opposite wall and then extend my legs back out again. And resting here for about 3 minutes, which is 23 long, easy diaphragmatic breaths, is often the minimum amount of time to switch from stress response to rest response. So what I would do would be to spend time here noticing where my breath is moving into. Is my breath in my chest, or is it being initiated by my diaphragm? And sometimes it's nice to put a prop on to the place you want your breath to be initiated. You can use all sorts of different things. I've got a eye pillow. If you're into crystals, you can grab a nice chunk of obsidian, or grab a rock from outside, or grab a 450 gram bag of kidney beans, whatever. Get creative. Just to place onto the space where breath, when in rest response, is meant to initiate. And again, 23 long, easy diaphragmatic breaths is 3 minutes. And how I know I'm shifting into stress response is when I start to physically feel my body rest down into the ground, rest down into the props. Because without realizing it, what our body does when we are in stress response, you know the term wound up. She's really wound up. I'm actually pulling up, gripping up away from gravity. And so if I practice with my long, easy breaths, resting down and dropping down into gravity, that's how I know I'm shifting into rest response. I could talk about this all day, and so as not to keep you for too long, I'll leave you with that and expect more to come from me. Again, I'm Stacey Kai, and I look forward to being with you more.